Hello out there in YouTube land. Mark Allen Gunnels here again. I'm going to do another one of my YouTube readings. I know there are just fives and tens of you that look forward to these. I'm going to be reading from my newest novel, which is called The Cult of Ocasta. It was released last month from Evil Jester Press. It's actually a sequel to my earlier novel, The Quarry. It also has some connections with my novella, October Roses. But it is actually a direct sequel to The Quarry. I do think that The Cult of Ocasta does stand on its own. It can be read without having read the previous novel, but it does flow directly from the storyline of The Quarry. And I'm going to be reading a little bit from the prologue of the novel to maybe elicit a little interest and give you a little taste of the book. So this is the prologue to The Cult of Ocasta. It is dark where I am, and cold. Not that these things concern me much. They are as inconsequential as the passage of time. Centuries have come and gone since I was imprisoned here, but I do not grow impatient. It is the merest drop of water in the vast ocean of my lifespan. I did become frustrated by how close I came with the Sierra human, freedom finally within my grasp only to be snatched away at the last moment. But I do not fret. A being such as myself cannot be contained forever. Even now I feel wheels in motion, events aligning in my favor. There are those out there that know of my existence, that long to touch one so powerful, so ageless. I hear their whispered prayers and declarations of devotion, and I whisper back, calling out to their minds, invading their dreams, leading them to me. Soon they will arrive. They will feed me, nourish me with souls of sacrificial lambs, and I will grow strong again, strong enough to break these mystical chains and arise from this watery cell. I will walk the earth once more, doing as I please, manipulating, tormenting, and slaughtering the mortal animals. I have big plans for when I am finally liberated, especially for you, Emilio. Emilio Gambrell came awake at once, bolting upright in the bed. His body was coated in a sticky layer of sweat, and his breathing came in quick, shallow bursts. The light above the stove shone in the kitchen area of his studio apartment. As always, he hadn't slept in complete darkness for the past few years. Pushing aside the damp covers, he got out of bed and shuffled down the short hallway past the washer and dryer to the cramped bathroom. After relieving himself, he turned on the cold water in the sink and drank from his cupped hands. Glancing at his reflection, he sighed and shook his head. For a man only in his early 20s, he looked much older. The strain and anxiety of the last several years were stamped on his face, premature wrinkles crinkling the corners of his eyes and lips. Not that it made much difference. There was no one in his life Emilio was trying to impress. Heading back down the hall, he snagged his cell from the bedside table and checked the time. 2:43 a.m. He'd slept a little over 3 hours, and he knew from experience that he was probably up for the night. Turning on a lamp in the corner, he sank into his thrift store recliner and picked up his netbook from the floor. Emilio lived a rather Spartan existence. He didn't even own a TV, but he did sometimes watch movies on the netbook. Flipping through the stack of DVDs next to the chair, he found the one he wanted and slid the disc into the external drive. Turning down the volume so he didn't disturb the old lady next door, although judging from how loud she played the television during the day, she was probably half deaf as it was, Emilio started watching The Howling. He wasn't really a horror fan, and this old werewolf movie in particular was a bit too cheesy for his taste, but the film had very pleasant associations for Emilio, as it was the first film he'd ever watched with Norman, and it usually helped relax him, especially after waking from one of his nightmares. Nightmares, he mumbled to himself with a dry, humorless laugh. He wished they were only nightmares, but suspected they were something much worse. He'd been experiencing them ever since that night out by the old church across from the quarry, the night the creature from the lake working through Dale's body had attempted to possess Emilio. It hadn't been successful, but something had happened, some melding of the minds. Sounded ridiculously Star Trek, but Emilio had seen the creature's past, felt its emotions, crude as they were. A link had been formed, a connection. Psychic? Amelia knew firsthand that stranger things had happened. These were more than dreams. While he slept, his mind plugged into that of the creature, and he knew what it was thinking deep down beneath the waters of the quarry, could feel its hatred, sense its plotting. The movie wasn't calming him the way it usually did. His skin tingled as if with static electricity, and he had that eerie feeling of being watched. It could have been only his imagination, kicked into overdrive because of the nightmare, or it could have been something more. Perhaps the connection wasn't only active while Emilio slept. Maybe even now the creature was taking a tour of his mind, rifling through his memories, peeking out from behind his eyes. Emilio turned off the movie and set the netbook aside. His thoughts churned and twisted in his brain like clothes in a washer. But in the early morning gloom he remained still and silent, staring straight ahead at the blank wall, wondering what the future held. And, like I said, that is the prologue to The Cult of Ocasta, my new novel from Evil Jester Press. I'm very proud of this one. I worked hard on it. I think I came up with a good and exciting story, and I hope people enjoy it. It's available on Amazon in paperback or digitally. Give it a try and let me know what you think. Thanks.